about learning. Become part of this excitement today by becoming a friend of South Dakota Public Television, because if South Dakota Public Television doesn't do it, who will?
You're watching South Dakota Public Television.
The inauguration of South Dakota's 30th governor took place yesterday, right here in the Capitol building in Pierre. Good afternoon and welcome to Inaugural 1995. I'm your host, Todd F. In the next hour, we're going to give you some of the highlights of yesterday's activities, including the swearing in and inaugural address of Governor Bill Janklow, the receiving line, and the formal Grand March and Capitol Ball. Yesterday's activities began with a legislative brunch and with the swearing in of the state's legislators. Our coverage begins with the swearing in of Governor Bill Janklow and his inaugural address.
We have 4 floors of citizens of South Dakota and across the nation that have come here today to witness this historic event. For our swearing in for our gubernatorial candidates, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, we're going to call on the Chief Justice of the South Dakota Supreme Court, Robert A. Miller. To receive the oath of office as our 30th governor of South Dakota on this historic event, he served as our 27th governor in 2 terms. And it's quite a different day from the fun and festivities and fighting for South Dakota that we have here today as what we had, if you remember, and I'm sure you do, Bill, on January 27th of 1994. When at that time, the Crystal Theater, where Bill and his high school sweetheart had their first date, overfilled during a blizzard with 14 inches of snow. They spilled out onto the streets to send off onto a great campaign that culminated in this day here. But we've made history with Governor Janklow before. You elected him to the highest percentage of votes as Attorney General in the state of South Dakota. In his second term, you re-elected him with a historic 70.9% of the votes, because you know he can get the job done. And so today, we elect the former governor for the first time to be sworn in. He will serve more days and more years than any governor in the history of our state. So let's welcome, if you will please, our 30th governor as he comes to be sworn in, William J. Janklow. And to hold the Bible, holding the Bible for the oath will be the First Lady of South Dakota, Mary Dean, and joining us on the stage is the First Mother of South Dakota, Llewellyn Nace.
Governor, I'm honored to accept your oath of office. Please raise your right hand and proceed.
I, William Janklow, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, that I will faithfully perform the duties as governor of the state of South Dakota, so help me God.
Congratulations, Governor, and best wishes to you.
Congratulations, Governor. Let's make history again. She's a mom, a teacher, a businesswoman, a pilot, a skier, a scuba diver, and will be the first female lieutenant governor in the state of South Dakota. But she's been the first woman in a number of instances, including the first president of the Rapid City Common Council, of the South Dakota Children's Home Society, of the Rapid City United Way. I think the only time she was ever second, she was the second woman as president of the Rapid City Chamber of Commerce. We are going to make her number one. Again, the first woman as Lieutenant Governor of South Dakota today. From Rapid City, would you welcome Carole K. Hillard. Holding the Bible for the swearing-in ceremonies for Lieutenant Governor Hillard is her husband, John.
Carole, it's also a great honor to take your oath at this time. It's a privilege for me, and I would ask you to raise your right hand and give me your oath.
I, Carole Hillard, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Lieutenant Governor of the state of South Dakota. So help me God.
Congratulations.
We've asked the Chief Justice, Robert A. Miller, to relinquish his duties for just a moment as we take the oath of office for the Attorney General. In his second term from Sioux Falls, he is one of 12 brothers and sisters, a large family. We have many of the family members of the governor, lieutenant governor, and other constitutional officers observing throughout the day-to-day. But we are going to ask Mark Barnett to come forward to receive the oath of office for his second term. His wife Deborah will be holding the Bible, and we are going to ask for Brother Mark if Brother Max and Brother Tom will come forward to administer the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after us. I, Mark Barnett, do solemnly swear
I, Mark Barnett, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Attorney General of the state of South Dakota,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Attorney General for the state of South Dakota.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, General Barnett. Next to receive the oath of office will be the Secretary of State. And this is the third term for Joyce Hazeltine. She is President-elect, by the way, of the National Association of Secretaries of State and will host that national group in Rapid City in August as she assumes her position then as their president. She is a Fort Pierre native, and we would like her husband Dave to hold the Bible for the swearing-in ceremonies, and again with the presiding judge, Chief Justice Robert A. Miller.
This is getting to be an old habit, Joyce. And I do too. And I'm very honored to have this opportunity to hear your oath and have you administer it. Please proceed.
I, Joyce Hazeltine, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Secretary of State of the state of South Dakota, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I got a little nervous and forgot to say thank you to the Chief Justice for graciously allowing me to involve my family in the swearing in. Thank you, Chief.
And the chief said it was getting to be a habit with Joyce. State Auditor Vernon L. Larson will be sworn in for his fifth term as State Auditor. He's a graduate of Northern State, originally from Vivian, South Dakota. He's a former teacher and district representative for Congressman Jim Abner. Holding the Bible will be his wife, Rhonda, and I believe observing will be 4-year-old Garrett and 7-year-old Kyla, children.
Another old habit. I also am honored to take your oath. Mr. Larson, would you please give it to me?
I, Vern Larson, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of State Auditor of the state of South Dakota. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Vernon. A Ziebach County native from Faith in the insurance business, Richard Butler will take his oath of office for the first time. His wife, Karen, will hold the Bible. And we have mentioned children before because children are such a great part of the state of South Dakota. And observing the swearing in as the first time for the treasurer will be their 3 children whom they have adopted from a Romanian orphanage, and I believe they are sitting somewhere up there in the steps area.
Mr. Butler, it's with great pleasure I accept your oath of office. Would you please raise your right hand and state it clearly?
I, Richard Butler, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the state treasurer of the state of South Dakota, so help me God.
Congratulations. Good luck to you.
Congratulations, Rich. Curtis Johnson is a native of Platte and will be sworn in as a second term as Commissioner of Public and School Lands. And holding the Bible will be his wife, Mary Ellen Johnson, and they are the parents of 2 sons.
It's an honor to take your oath at this time, Mr. Johnson. Raise your right hand and give it to me, please.
I, Kirk Johnson, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Commissioner of School and Public Lands of the state of South Dakota. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kurt. Throughout this weekend, especially today with all of the fun and festivities that we are going to have with the various balls and the get-togethers, and we'll tell you a little bit about that later on, of the activities and what the schedule is. But you will notice that we've had support of many, many businesses in the city of Pierre and throughout the state of South Dakota. And one of those supports has been that they have provided cars for our officials so that they may be escorted from one ball to another to the festivities that are going to be going on. Last night they were joking that they had to get the largest car possible with the biggest window, because in the name of each car is the name of the official. And this next lady, Laska Schoenfelder, will have the largest name when you see in those cars. She's from Mount Vernon and will be sworn in as the second term Public Utilities Commissioner, and her husband Mike will hold the Bible.
It is likewise with great honor I accept your oath. Would you raise your right hand and give it to me, please?
Yeah, I will. I, Laska Schoenfelder, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of Public Utilities Commissioner of the state of South Dakota, so help me God.
Congratulations, Laska.
Congratulations, Alaska. Ladies and gentlemen, our elected state officials. We're going to ask Don Syme of Watertown to step up to the microphone, if you will, please, for our Lord's Prayer.
Forgive us our debt as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Danny. But I'd like to say, as I sat there and listened to those comments, we live in a state where the spotlights on occasion shine on one individual. But Bill Janklow knows every morning that he gets up and every night that he goes to bed that there's a powerful lot of people in this state that have a role to play in every single successful venture that we ever undertake. You know, as I sat here today and listened to Denny give the introduction to Carole, I couldn't help but just really feel great. Because although focus of attention comes on the fact that she's a woman, the reality of the situation is the focus of attention clearly comes to bear that she's a lady and a person who on a moment's notice can become the governor of South Dakota. And over the last couple of years, we in South Dakota became incredibly familiar with the frailty in which all of us get to stay on this earth. And we don't know how long we're going to be here. And at the same time, we truly recognize that of all the things that bring us anguish and sorrow, government continues to go on. And Carole Hillard is more than a person who stands in place to become the governor. She's a great partner, she's a great friend, and she's truly going to do a great job working full-time as Lieutenant Governor for the people of South Dakota. And Senator Pressler, I'd like to thank you for coming here today because you epitomize by your presence here today this unique federalism that's the part that America has that no other country in the world has. When our founding fathers sat down and brought this concept together that we have for a nation and the way they conceived the creation of our states, they recognized that there is no such thing as any one government ever that has all the answers or that can propose all the solutions. And we in South Dakota are really very fortunate at this point in time with respect to the Congress because we have Senator Pressler, who's now the chairman of the Commerce, Transportation, and Space Committee, a committee that's incredibly important to the people of this state and the state. And at the same time, we have Tom Daschle as a United States Senator who's the minority leader in the United States Senate. And we've got Tim Johnson, who is one of the senior members of the Agriculture Committee in the House. And putting the politics aside, we've got a team in Washington that has over 45 years experience in Washington that can go to work and do the things that are important for the betterment of America and South Dakota. You know, as I thought how I would visit with you ladies and gentlemen of South Dakota today, I couldn't help but think back to really what I always refer to as my South Dakota roots in Flandreau. As a bunch of our Flandreau friends came over and visited last night, and as we joked and kidded around the house, I couldn't help but think how important they epitomize again what we call our unique relationships and our friendships in South Dakota. Because other things come and go, but the friends you meet in life are with you in victory and in defeat. And they're with you in success and failure, and happiness and tragedy. And I couldn't help but think back to this Flandreau that I knew back in the 50s. And it could have been New Effington, or it could have been Edgemont, it could have been Sisseton or North Sioux City, or anything in between. Because all of your communities are the same as our Flandreau was. It was Norman Rockwell's America. We had a popcorn stand on Main Street where on Saturday night everybody filed in to get their popcorn and hung around at the end to try and get the old maids. We had a little movie theater that Denny referred to as the Crystal Theater, where most of us pretended to go watch a movie.
It was truly a community where the G.I. Joes and the Rosie the Riveters from the Second World War created a lot of baby boomers. We lived in a time back then in Flanders in the 50s when a guy named Nikita Khrushchev said he would bury us. And none of us took it very seriously from a guy who looked like one of the Three Stooges. Our parents really anguished over the music that we liked. We called it rock and roll. They were hoping that it was just a passing fad that would come and go very quickly. And in the 50s, when we grew up, real cars had tail fins, but real men did not wear ponytails or earrings. It was a place, frankly, where Bill Janklow occasionally dropped into high school. And there are others here today that I could name also, but I won't, because the spotlights are on me. But that world has changed, and it's changed dramatically. Our granddaughter, Lindsay, the star of our television commercials in the campaign, our daughter, Lindsay, lives in a world of psychedelic art. We now live in a world that's racing forward so quickly and so fast, we feel like somebody's got the remote control on fast forward. We used to live in a world where a computer filled a room. Now we live in a world where a computer chip can take a room full of paper onto that tiny chip. We used to live in a world where people collected baseball cards. Now they're part of an investment portfolio that people have. We used to live in a world where we cheered during the World Series. Now we live in a World Series where it ends in a 7-game tie between the millionaires and the multimillionaires. We used to live in a world where when people were segregated by race, we called it segregation. We now live in a world where when we segregate people by race, we call it empowerment. We used to live in a world where when kids acted like kids, it was called growing up. And now when kids act like kids, we call it attention deficit syndrome. We used to live in a world where the contestants on the quiz shows were the only ones that knew the answers in advance. Now we live in a world where only the journalists know the answers in advance. We used to live in a world where we'd see Elvis Presley on television. Now we see him everywhere. But you know, we also had other things. We had values. All of us did. It wasn't unique to Flanders, but we had values. We had compassion. At the same time, we all believed that to get ahead in life, it took hard work. We believed in personal responsibility. We also believed in community, the family, the church, the schools, and we even believed in our government in those days. We believed that there were powers greater than all of us, and clearly a single power greater than anything on earth. As Mark Twain once said, a lot of people are troubled by what they don't understand in the scriptures. And then he said, but I'm troubled by what I do understand in the scriptures. We lived in a world in those days where we knew our neighbors and we knew our neighborhood, and we were proud of where we lived. And again, that epitomized where all of us came from, no matter what community we were in. Today, our values have not changed, but they're under incredible stress. When they put garbage on television, it's now called entertainment. When you put manure in a book, it's called literature. And when you put pollution on a canvas, it's called art. times attempt to change values, but they really will never change. We also lived in a time back in those days when, as I said, we believed in government, and we believed in the inherent good of government to do things for us as people. And government did great things in those days. It provided great community education in all of our communities. It built great dams on the Missouri River to tame the mighty Missouri River from the ravages of flood and to create opportunities. Government did good things, like giving polio shots to children in schools to make sure that every student had the opportunity to escape that dreaded virus. And at the same time, it did big things. Like when President Eisenhower proposed and the Congress adopted the National Defense Highway Act that became the forerunner of the interstate highway system that we have in America. Today, in 1995, we have more people employed at the federal, state, and local government union than we have employed in manufacturing in America. When Abe Lincoln created the Department of Agriculture, we had one agriculture employee for every 227,000 farmers in America. By 1900, it was one agriculture department employee for every 1,694. And today, we've got one U.S. Department of Agriculture employee for every 16 farmers in America. Times have changed. Last year, the National Government's Office of Management and Budget determined that businesses in America spent 5 billion hours the previous year just filling out and doing the paperwork that's required to comply with federal regulations. We live at a time when it appears in certain circumstances that welfare facilitates poverty instead of help to eliminate it. We live in a time when a lot of us believe that prisons are graduate schools for criminals instead of a place where you go to be punished and to contemplate and deal with rehabilitation. We also live during a period of time when we don't believe that might makes right, but we do believe that the might of principles are the types of things that can drive you forward as a mighty example to the rest of the world. You know, a few years ago, I had the rare privilege of heading up the American delegation to monitor the elections in Haiti. It was an awesome experience that I honestly got to go through. Because what I got to see were people lining up by the thousands in their Sunday best to go out and vote in a free election when they've never had that opportunity before. And it was truly an exciting thing to see. And a couple months later, I was asked by President Bush to head up the American delegation to go monitor the elections in El Salvador. And once again, I saw people exercising this rare privilege that you and I have taken for granted in America for 200 years, to go exercise the right to select their leaders after the rhetoric and after the debate was over. And we can talk about Norman Rockwell's America, but it isn't here anymore. But its value system is. And as we go forward into the future, all of us, each and every one of us in South Dakota truly understand that there are unique qualities in this state that give us what we really believe is the South Dakota advantage. We live in a world that's becoming very small, very, very quickly. The size of it isn't getting any small, but the speed with which it shrinks together in an ever-changing set of technologies is accelerating. It's becoming important how we know and understand our neighbors to the south and the north and the east and the west. And what used to be those of us that lived here were known to a lot of Americans as hicks from the sticks. We have the opportunity to become the modem cowboys of tomorrow. And we clearly can seize that opportunity and do it if we're willing to pull forward. Because our South Dakota advantage tells us that we are realistic. We're not an unrealistic people. Occasionally in our rhetoric we get that way, but in reality we're not. We analyze our problems. We look at our options. We debate the solutions. But we're still a society that once the debate is over and the examination's done, we make the tough choices and the tough decisions that we have to make to solve our people's problems. Because that is the government's ultimate responsibility in representative government. We in South Dakota understand that one of our South Dakota advantages is that government is an advocate for people. Not the institution of government, but those that represent people in government. Every single one of us, whether we're in or out of office, have a responsibility to make sure that we understand that God created every single human being in God's image. And that there's no person ever that's a lesser human being because of any disability they may have been born with or accumulated in life, or what color their skin was, or what sex they were born to, or what gender they happen to be. We in South Dakota understand that. And government can't pass edicts that mandate it. What governments can do is set an example for everybody else. So that if government is going to be criticized, it's for doing the right thing and not the wrong thing. We in South Dakota understand, as part of our South Dakota advantage, that we have compassion. We know that everybody doesn't start off with the same circumstance in life, and that we've got a unique responsibility to make sure that everybody has the opportunity, and I emphasize the word opportunity, to develop themselves to their greatest potential. And what they become and how they become it will be up to them, with the opportunities that we give to every person in this state. You know, as I traveled around, I've done the same thing that all you ladies and gentlemen have done. I've gotten to meet a lot of people. And last week I went on a tour of the Crippled Children's Hospital and School in Sioux Falls. And it started out as a tour, but very quickly it was no longer a tour. Because as you meet some of those children, as you meet some of those children whose minds will never develop, as you meet some of those children who are strapped into the devices as they're getting their exercise, knowing full well that success for them in life truly will be measured by incremental increases, and that they'll never ultimately end up like you and I. You realize what fate and what life is really about. And you realize not just that some of us may be more or less fortunate than others, but what you really realize is the responsibility that all of us, each and every one of us, have to each other. Over the years, I've had the privilege of going to a lot of Make-A-Wish dances. I've met a lot of young people that will never get the opportunity to grow up and be older people. Most of them will never get the opportunity to become adults. And as you sit and visit with them and they talk about their dreams and their wishes, all of a sudden you really realize, and I mean you realize it in a very big way, sometimes how insignificant we are as human beings when we talk about achievement, at the same time that we understand what other people's dreams are and their desire to have them fulfilled. One of the things of our South Dakota advantage is optimism. Because once we're all through moaning and groaning, and we do that a lot, we roll up our sleeves and we decide we're going to solve our problems. And we're going to solve them in the most constructive and not destructive way that we know how to do it. Because in the final analysis, we have to live with the solutions that we've created. And as much as anything else, the South Dakota advantage is enthusiasm. because we all understand, and we've come to understand living in a state like this, that success in life is really being measured by getting up the floor one more time than life knocks you down. We can get knocked down, but we can't get knocked out. You know, when Catherine Bates wrote America the Beautiful, she didn't write it in this state, but she could have. When she wrote about purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plain, she could have been sitting in the Black Hills looking out east from the hills. And whether you're talking about the magnificence of being a mile high, or more than that on Harney Peak, or a mile underground at Homestake, or you're talking about our hills and our streams, or our fields of grain, whether you're talking about our livestock operations or the way that our people make a living, we truly, truly understand America the Beautiful and its significance on South Dakota. But those of us that have the privilege of having been elected, Bill Janklow, Carole Hillard, the constitutional officers, and all you Democrats and Republicans that are going to serve in the legislature, our debates will be over ideas for the best solutions. These will not be personal involvements or acrimony. They're going to be constructive debate as all of us struggle as hard as we can to bring about the solutions to really make sure that every single child in this state has a quality education, to really make sure that every human being in South Dakota that wants to work and is willing to work can have a decent job at decent pay, to really make sure that no child in this state will ever again be molested or injured when they're defenseless, and to make sure that elderly people who live out their lives without an ability or without some of the abilities to take care of themselves are a responsibility to all of us. And that more than anything else, or as much as anything else, each one of us are responsible to each other for our actions and for our activities. But as I sum it up, I can honestly say the election's over. And now we may carry the mantle of Republicans or Democrats, but we also carry the mantle of elected representatives of the people. And Bill Janklow and Carole and all the rest of us have a responsibility to hit the ground running in 3 days, to go to work, to deal with not just the problems but the opportunities of South Dakota. There are states, most of them have more people than we do. But there's no state in the history of this nation that's ever been able to harness 720,000 people focused in one direction, working together to bring about solutions. You and I have that opportunity in South Dakota. And like I say, the team has been selected by the voters. The season is about to start, and all of us not only have the responsibility and the duty, but we have the opportunity, which we accept, to bring a championship to the people of South Dakota. Thank you.
Following the inaugural address, well-wishers joined the receiving line right here on the first floor of the state capitol building. They had an opportunity to greet the new governor, his wife, Mary Dean, Lieutenant Governor Carole Hillard, and her spouse, John. While waiting in line to meet the new officials, folks had an opportunity to munch on a little bit of inaugural cake and reflect on the day's activities. South Dakota Public Television's Brenda Farnsworth visited with lots of folks in the line and got their impressions on this very special day.
Capitol, number one, is very special, and events that go on in the state capitol draw these tremendous crowds. Look back at the centennial. Statewide events held here always bring good weather, and we have a wonderful time.
A wonderful time is just what many of these folks are having. Whether it was drinking punch, eating inaugural cake, or visiting with friends, everyone in the receiving line seemed to enjoy the experience from beginning to end.
I'm just going to wish him another good 4-year term, and we appreciated him being the governor before. Looking forward to serving South Dakota. I think he's the best man for the job.
These girls from Mitchell have been big cheerleaders for Governor Janklow throughout his campaign, and are now getting in on the celebration by helping serve cake.
It means everything, because we worked very hard, and this is the frosting on the cake for us. I'm going to tell him I love him for one thing, and tell him thank you for the pictures I sent him. He put them in his book.
Without the help of many volunteers, the success of this event wouldn't have been possible.
We were asked at the department I work for if we were interested in volunteering, and it sounded interesting, sounded fun, so I volunteered.
Everyone was busy putting on their best smile as camera flashes everywhere were looking for that best shot. This inaugural different than any of the others for the Janklows was the addition of granddaughter Lindsay.
Well, this is a real special day for the whole family, and I think it's special for Lindsay. Her grandma and grandpa are her two best friends in the world, and she just loves being near them, and someday when she sees the tapes of this, it'll be real special to her.
Well, I'm just going to tell him I'm glad he was elected and gave me an opportunity. I'm his brother-in-law, see. So gave me an opportunity to come to the ceremony, because I didn't get to come the last time he was elected.
Later in the afternoon, there was an art show, and a bevy of hot air balloons lifted off from Hilger's Gulch, just north of the state capitol building. By 7 p.m., however, the order of the day was tuxedos and formal evening wear. And all eyes turned to the grand staircase, and the spotlight was on Governor Janklow and his family. The University of South Dakota Jazz Band transformed the Capitol Rotunda. South Dakotans dressed in their very finest swayed and whirled across the dance floor. It was a time to enjoy.
The Honorable Carole K. Hillard, first female Lieutenant Governor, and John Hillard.
Lieutenant Governor Hillard, another one of the first at this event, and she's had a big smile on most of the day.
Ms. Shauna Janklow and Jim Hagan.
Shauna is the governor's daughter, and Jim Hagan has been a very important aide to Governor Janklow in the campaign.
Pam Durheim and Randy Durheim.
Pam is the governor's daughter and her husband.
Russell Janklow, Mary Janklow, and Lindsay Janklow.
His son Russell, Russell's very involved also in the campaign, a confidant of the governor, his lovely wife Mary, and their daughter, the governor's granddaughter Lindsay, who was the star of some of the campaign ads this fall.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable William J. Janklow, 30th Governor of South Dakota, and Mary Jean Janklow, First Lady of South Dakota.
historic first. For the first time, the governor is stepping down the steps for the third four-year term. The gentleman on the left is Harold Sikora, the Adjutant General for the state of South Dakota and the National Guard.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite our new 30th Governor of South Dakota, Bill Janklow, and the First Lady, Mary Dean, to grace us on the dance floor for the first dance of the evening. We all know how Bill loves to dance. He's looking good. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite the remaining dignitaries to join the Governor and the First Lady on the dance floor.
A big moment for the constitutional officers and their spouses to have this special dance. New State Treasurer Dick Butler and his wife, Ken Stockman and his wife, to the right. Here's Kurt Johnson, the Commissioner of School and Public Lands, and his wife, with a lovely hat. Governor Janklow and Mary Dean. Secretary of State Joyce Hazeltine and her husband David.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can now join the rest of the dignitaries on the dance floor.
Not a lot of room, a lot of people in the Capitol building. It's full. Attorney General Mark Barnett and his wife Deborah there. At the bottom of your screen, Carole Hillard and her husband John, Lieutenant Governor, and his wife. Pam and Sean Janklow and their dance partners, Governor. Gave you some pleasantries. It's got to be a special moment for them.
I will give my heart to you.
Chief Justice Robert Miller and his wife, talking to Dick Butler, Treasurer. Interesting time where all these folks can literally rub elbows with each other. Harvey Cochin, the new Speaker of the House, from Spearfish. Jim Bird, Public Utilities Commissioner, and his daughter. Joyce Hazeltine, Secretary of State. Justice Savers and his wife. On the dance floor. Dick Butler once again. Probably doing as much talking as he is dancing. Opportunity to get real close to the governor. Congratulate him one more time. Jim Hagan and the governor's daughter. Chad McKenzie from KELO, he's going to play the accordion later on during the festivities. Wait for the next number. Now time for some polka music. A little later in the evening, we'll clear it out, going to some of the other balls and parties going on around here. fine Secretary of State. Jerome Landers, former Republican leader in the House.
It gets better, yeah. Okay.
And Governor Janklow kept trying to leave, but everyone wanted to say hello, and finally he was able to make it to some of the other balls going on in here. After the Capitol Ball, celebrants could attend 2 other balls in Pierre. And no doubt there's a few partiers who are probably taking life just a little bit easier this afternoon. This concludes our retrospective of inaugural 1995. We hope you liked it. We'd also like to add our congratulations to Governor Bill Janklow and to all the other officials who were honored yesterday during the festivities. For everyone here at South Dakota Public Broadcasting, I'm Todd Epp. Thanks for watching. So long.